We have Jim Marshall here to talk to us from Jackson Thornton Utilities Consultants, cost of our sewer study.
All right. Thank y'all for having me. You'll go ahead and go to the second slide, and I will, got 12 slides. We're already on slide 2, so making good progress already. I'll be as brief as I can be. If y'all have questions, ask them. If y'all have, I don't want y'all thinking about slide 6 when we're on slide 12, so just feel free to interrupt, ask questions. But y'all engaged us back at the first of the year to look at the water system and the sewer system relative to the cost to actually provide the service to your citizens today and into the future. That's what we've done. So typical objectives of a rate study: make sure you have enough money to operate the way y'all see fit. Second objective is you want your rates to be fair and equitable, meaning everybody's paying their fair share. You know, that is a publicly owned utility. There's no profit motive, but it is a capital intensive business. Y'all just borrowed $19 million. Y'all got to pay it back. It takes money to operate our sewer system. How can we fairly and relative to industry standards allocate those expenses? So again, balancing the need to have sufficient revenue with affordability. That's a bigger and bigger issue as costs continue to rise. I will say, as a publicly owned utility that provides a necessary service, you cannot go bankrupt. That happened not too far north of here. I mean, that was quite the undertaking. Want your rates to be simple, and your rate structures on the sewer side are simple. And ultimately, you want your rates to be defensible. Everything we do adheres to the American Water Works Association's M1 manual. It's a leading resource for this niche rate consulting industry, I'll call it. All right, quick overview of the process. First step is determine how much money y'all need to make. All underlying information in the analysis was provided by the city. Once we have that revenue target, we then allocate it to your different rate classes. And what I mean by that is you've got commercial customers that might use 20,000 gallons a month, and a residential person uses 4,000. They're using your system differently, so we ought to pass along those costs to them differently in hopes of everybody paying their fair share. You don't want residential folks subsidizing industrial, or commercial and commercial subsidizing residential. So once we do that, we then really look at getting into fixed cost and variable cost. Example of a variable cost would be chemical expense. The more sewer you're treating and collecting, the more chemicals you're spending, more chemicals you're buying. So you'd pass that through volumetrically. Well, you know, customer service salaries, some other administrative salaries have nothing to do with the volume that you're actually pulling through your system. So that would be allocated based off number of customers in each rate class. And ultimately, and what I'm here to really get y'all thinking on the night is to implement rate changes. So I do have rate recommendations for y'all to consider. And I will go ahead and say, and the folks, I've had 2 meetings in person with city officials, work sessions where we spent hours diving through all this. Part of my role is to get y'all to do as little as possible to your rates, to do everything y'all need to do to maintain the system, maintain and continue to improve the system. Okay. All right, O&M expense, and this is, we're looking at things on a cash needs basis. So O&M expense does not include depreciation. It is not a cash need. Right at $2.6 million. Debt service of $1.9 million, and I do want to be very clear, that includes debt service that does not yet exist. It is money that y'all have borrowed, but y'all have not started paying it back for. But we have to be able to pay, when y'all do start paying that back, you need to have the money on hand. So we're setting that as, including that as part of the target to be able to fund that debt service. And then rate funded capital, that's money, it pays you go for ongoing from rates to reinvest into your system. So we've got $4.9 million of a revenue requirement, backing off other revenue. That's late payments, interest income, basically anything y'all do, any money y'all get for anything other than collecting sewer, so that the rates need to generate $4.7 million. Okay? All right, so for every dollar that comes in, or that y'all need to come in, part of that revenue target, 38 cents of every dollar is going to go to pay debt service. 10 cents of every dollar is going to pay rate-funded capital. 52 cents of every dollar is being used to fund ongoing O&M expenses. Okay? All right, revenue requirement by rate class. Going left to right, you have the system total there at just under 5 million. Residential class is the vast majority of your system. Commercial is a distant second. Then you have industrial and government. All right, so for every dollar that you need to bring in, you're bringing in 65 cents. The residential class is paying 68 cents of every dollar. And then you can see going left to right, you've got 49, 44, and then 63%. This is driven by the fact that there's debt service. Remember, please, I mentioned at the outset, we're setting that target. Part of the driver in that gap, in that shortfall, is the new debt that y'all have not started paying debt service on yet, but you will. So that has to be part of the rate target or revenue target. So that's the biggest driver in that shortfall. You're under recovered by about 1.7 million based off that target. The vast majority of that is the debt service associated with that $19 million borrowing. After several meetings and phone calls and emails over the last several months, I think the first work session was back in August, working with city officials, this is the what I really would like y'all to consider moving forward. Increasing all volumetric rates to $7.50 per 1,000 gallons. You have a flat rate in place now, increasing that, and I'll have a visual here behind this in a second, but increase your volumetric rate to $7.50, increase the residential customer charge to $24 a month, the commercial to $80 a month, the industrial customer charge to $400 a month, and the governmental to $80 a month, in line with commercial. That brings in just about what you need based off 2021 billing statistics. And again, part of my job is to get y'all to do as little as possible to your rates to do everything you need to do. We have to be able to, you got to pay the money back. You have to be able to meet those coverages associated with that borrowing. All right, so what we're looking at here is a residential cost curve. This is the result of the study. If you look at those top left numbers, it cost y'all $26.70 a month to have a residential customer on your sewer system before y'all collect any sewer from them. And then $6, just for math's sake, $6.50 for every 1,000 gallons that y'all collect or that y'all bill. And obviously with the sewer system, that is your volumes are driven from the water bill. Graphically, or in that curve, that's represented in that blue line. Your cost to serve on a per 1,000 gallon basis. So a 1,000 gallon customer is costing y'all the $26.70 plus that $6.50. Okay? Your current rate of $16 and then $4.90, that's your current rate structure. That's represented with that red curve. Okay, that bottom curve. If you're below the blue line, you're losing money. If you're above the blue line, you're making a little money. Given the fact that the biggest driver of the need to raise rates is debt service, and you're paying debt service every month regardless of the volumes coming through the system, we thought it best to really look at getting a portion of that revenue, additional revenue, from an increase in the customer charge to all 4 rate classes. So recommending that y'all consider an $8 increase to the residential customer charge, and then an increase of from $4.90 to $7.50 for every 1,000 gallons collected or billed based off the water volume. And again, that's an $8 increase on residential, and then we're going up $80 for commercial and government, and then going to $400 on industrial. But the rate impact to your residential folks, if you'll go to the next slide, please, you see here, a 4,000 gallon customer is basically your average customer. Just under 4,100 gallons a month. Currently paying $35.60 based off your current bill, your current rate structure. This recommended adjustment would take their bill up $21 a month. To your average residential customer, that's a $21 increase. All right, so what does this do? Why am I asking y'all to consider this? Why do I think this is a step to take? This gets y'all right in line with where you need to be recovery-wise. By the outside looking in, by the skin of your teeth. It gets you to 101% recovery for the system with 101% at your residential class. And if you think back to that revenue requirement by rate class, the residential class, based off the number of customers and the amount of volume that they're sending you to your sewer plant, they represent about 80% of your cost. They've got to carry about 80% of that. They've got to pay about 80% of your cost. They need to carry that burden. That's the effect they're having on your system. And you see anywhere between really 97 and 103%, you're in line with where you need to be. And this recommendation gets you there barely. And it's a balance. I would love for that recovery to be a little bit higher just to better insulate the utility from additional inflationary concerns. But this is, at the outset I said, do as little as you have to do your rates to do everything you need to do. Based off what we know today, this should handle that.